Wait for it. And we're back. Told you it wouldn't be that long. And we have a new face on the desk. Also, thanks again to Jensen for joining us. But we have Joey, the support from Immortals Academy, joining us here on the desk today. First of all, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here, Joey. And we do have Solafide and Zeus Gaming as our second set here. And we don't have much time to waste, Joey. So we're going to dive right into using your big support brain. And we want to pick apart this matchup between Zeyzal and Pocket Rhino. Obviously, one has been the Worlds, one is still just kind of been within the Academy scene, I think last time on Team Liquid, respectively, for Pocket Rhino. What are some of the things that you're looking for specifically within these two supports?
Well, I mean, obviously there's a big experience gap between the two of them, and I think it's going to be really important for Zeus Gaming to get a good matchup in the bot lane so that they can try to keep Zeyzal in the bot lane and not allow him to just go to mid lane and really control like the pacing of the game and get mid advantage and stuff like that through his roam timers. I think that'll be really important. Yeah.
Step one. Yeah. Got to get that. We got a good matchup. You know, if you're talking to your coach, which, you know, was just on the desk here, and Jensen, you know, if we're seeing support, meta supports like the Rel and sometimes the Tom Kench, if the Senna is available, you know, what are some prime support picks that you are looking for, whether as a blind pick option or if you're waiting for a counter pick option?
I think the Rel right now is probably just the best support option out there. So blinding the Rel is always never a bad option. It has great team fight potential and really great laning as well. So you can really never go wrong with it. There's not really the greatest counter picks into it. Also, the Alistar is something that you can really look forward to. I think those are going to be two big supports that are going to get picked up on both sides probably. I would be surprised to see a lot of variation from that since they are really just the two best supports in the meta right now.
Something when we were going over our prep for this matchup yesterday, a conversation that we were having with Kelsey was when we look at both of these teams, you know, Zeyzal is really known for being the main engaged or primary engaged setup for this team. However, for Zeus Gaming, it's not necessarily always Pocket Rhino. A lot of the times, Alorm is the one that is kind of filling in this niche, especially when he's getting his hands on the likes of a Malphite in an R5 situation.
Yeah, I want to see him picking some tanks in the top lane, kicking back, sipping a mojito, and just chilling out up there, and you know, hanging out, just scaling, and then really 1v9 the team fights in the late game.
Yeah, honestly, the last time these two teams faced up, it was in the Challengers Uprising tournament. We saw some really great kind of engage work off of Zeyzal and Alorm, just finding really solid flank angles. I do think that we'll see a little bit of variety in the support matchup because I remember Galio being very high priority in the last time they matched up, and then of course Pocket Rhino being known for kind of having a Nautilus priority coming in. So I think that we can see just like a little bit of a flashy picks, and then coming from top side, Alorm, obviously he's just looking for you to pick multiple range champions so he can lock in that Malphite. That's his entire. He's like the guy in the draft phase that says. The coach says, what do you want to play here? Like, are you looking for the range champion? Do you want to try to play the Jason and Gnar? And he says, give me the Malphite, man. I just want it. This is what I live for. So.
Coach's eyes just light up instantly like, yes, love to see it.
Sometimes the Keikaku comes together right when your opponent's least suspected. But you know, for a roster like Solafide, the last time I think we saw, and correct me if my memories might serve me wrong here, Alk, was in Challengers Uprising between
Kelsey
Zeus and...
gave it to us. You know, the cup matchup. Zeyzal absolutely gapped this man. It was pretty. It felt bad because they were playing well, right? Zoo were playing really well against Solafide, but Pocket Rhino game 3 just was, you know, he said it himself, right? He was going through a bit of a rough time, so it happens. We all have bad games, but and I'm looking forward to this one because I think Zoo and Solafide have had very different trajectories coming out of Cup. So far in this tournament, Solafide have looked okay. They've looked a little bit shaky in certain cases, and while Zoos don't exactly have the most stable of playstyles, it has stayed the most consistent with their identity, and I think they've also leveled up in a certain sense for some of their lanes. So I'm looking at this and I'm really looking forward to it because, I mean, obviously we have the Dokla versus Alorm one, as Alorm is kind of like the front runner for this team, and Dokla has had some performances that I think are really impressive, but also some really low lows, and coming up against these two, I think we're going to be able to see some really interesting clashes in terms of how they want to play.
Yeah, speaking of interesting clashes here, Alk Battery, one of the matchups that, before back in Cup was not necessarily as interesting before was the Winston RBM matchup. But now that matchup is a little bit spicier because RBM shows that he's picking things like Lee Sin. He's picking more junglers with far more early agency than just, Udyr and Hecarim. And whereas Winston, even though Winston, we've all, kind of said that he's always been the one that's been on the lower ends of the performing, he has been ramping up and he has been cleaning up his early game performance throughout Unified Grand Prix. In fact, I think he has gone under a bit of a redemption arc here for himself as, throughout the tier 2s, he is someone that it was always someone for Solafide to always kind of look at being exploited as a weakness and playing more for himself. But this time around, he has been playing more towards Dokla in the top lane, trying to create advantages for him to snowball through, especially when Dokla is playing something far more aggressive up in the lane, whether it's something like that Jace or even something else that does give a little bit more lane proactivity to be able to act on. But for RBM here, Alk, I mean, we were all surprised when he picked the Lee Sin and he completely dumpsters Supernova. But on the same token, we've seen what happens when Zeus plays in a team like CLG Academy and they're able to exploit kind of the two-dimensional playstyle that you would see from a 3 camp clear into gank playstyle.
Yeah, that is just the one thing for Zoo. I think that with a lot of prep time or even just watching their VODs, you'll see that they have a lot of really, really cookie cutter set plays, right? You said it there, right? They go for 2 camps and then RBM looks for something, whether that be a gank or goes for an invade. If you just have good jungle tracking, you're gonna find that their jungle kind of falls apart very, very quickly. And RBM, at least his understanding so far has been, his jungle understanding has been a little bit lackluster, at least for what we want to expect from junglers going into tier 1. So looking at this for Zeus, I'm looking at how does his team kind of play around RBM? Are they going to get, we haven't really seen the Lee Sin since that CLG matchup. So are they going to continue to reach for it or kind of just fall back into his champion pool of going for these Hecarims, going for these Lilias? I think that'll be really fun to watch, especially against Winston.
Right, and with about a minute and a half left up on the clock, I want to start getting your rounds of predictions in before we throw it to game 1 of the day on the series. Starting with you, Joey, who's taking this series?
My heart wants Zoo to win, but my brain tells me that Solafide is probably going to win. It's going to be a probably close series. I'm going to say 2-1 Solafide.
Okay.
They did make it 2-1 last time, but I do think that probably of all of the advantages available to them, the biggest one to Zeus is going to be the mid lane, which is something that we didn't talk about that much, and only just because of RBM's multifaceted champ pool. So if they're giving like picking red side, they might have some interesting counter picks into whatever Tuesday Prios. But overall, I just find it difficult for. Honestly, most teams approach Solafide by dealing with the jungle matchup, and we already talked about the inconsistencies in RBM's play, so I just don't see an easy way forward for Zeus to just really take a huge lead in the series.
No upsets. Yeah, I've seen Solafide take this one pretty easily. They had a really okay series versus TSM Academy, and I don't want to parrot off of what Kelsey said. She said it perfectly. So I think it's going to be really hard for Zeus Gaming.
Well, for those that are believing in the Zeus stonks, your odds are not in your favor as much, but it just means that the payout is even more if everyone else is wrong. So we'll have to see how it pans out. TJ and Iberia will be the ones casting on the series for the day. Take us away, boys.
Never take stock market advice from Rafa. How do you think he got that chain? He's keeping the best advice for himself. My name is TJ, joined by Matt Mambiria Clendaniel, as we are kicking off the upper bracket grand final. We still do have, of course, this match qualifies you to the finals. I said grand final, Matt, and I kind of messed myself up now. I like it. If you win this match, you go all the way to the grand finals. If you lose it, you're down towards the lower bracket. Matt, did you forget to unmute yourself?
I sure did, TJ. We're off to a banging start today.
Reset. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
Oh, hey everybody and welcome. We're here at the upper bracket finals, not grand finals, though they will be grand indeed. My name's Matt Clandaniel, joined by Thomas TJ James over on my left. Had to point the opposite way. It's real tough.
I'll make a good quip about Rafa and his chain and the stock market, and we're going to start talking about our two teams. It's Zeus Gaming taking on Solafide. First time, best time. Zeus Gaming, of course, are, I think, and this is true of both these teams, some of our most improved teams here in the amateur scene. If you're tuning out, maybe because you're like, oh, I don't recognize these names, these are the reason that there aren't any names for you to recognize anymore. These teams knocked out No Org. These teams both knocked a Academy team down to the lower bracket. They're the reason CLG Academy and TSM Academy are down there. So they are the teams to watch, I think, headed into our final stage. If I had to take a bet, I would say this is a preview of our grand final.
I think that regardless of where this goes, I am incredibly excited for the finals because of who we're going to be sending there. We have our amateur teams, and on one side, you know, we've got Dokla coming in on the top side. We already talked about him, but if you look into the jungle as well, we have two really big prospects. Winston, who of course had some academy time, and RBM, who every single step of the way, I love this player because you check their Twitter after every single match. They're like, CLG Academy lost to someone named Really Big Meme. And they're just so proud of themselves, and I love it. I'm so happy for RBM. And I'm really, a little bit of caster bias there because I want Captain Flowers and LS tomorrow to have to say Really Big Meme. That's what I'm hoping for.
Day after tomorrow, I believe. But yes. No, Captain Flowers uttering the words Really Big Meme, as I'm sure he has at some point in his life, but having to do it in his caster voice on broadcast is a goal all of us should be rooting for. Let's kind of break that down. Apparently one of the players is using the restroom, so it'll take us a second to get into game. But that's good, Matt. I'm going to spin this because it gives us some time to talk about these two teams. Zeus Gaming were one of your favorite teams. We cast them in Cup, where they went out in the semis to this exact team, to Solafide. And when they went out there, they looked like a much different team than the team that has blasted their way through the bracket here in UGP.
Yeah, and I think a big reason for that, I want to look into the bottom lane, because we already saw Pocket Rhino, even in that semifinal, was absolutely monstrous. But the question mark in my mind was always Raheen. And I was wondering when Raheen was going to show up for the team, if Raheen was going to show up for the team. Turns out now is the answer. This has been one of the coolest arcs to see from a player. I also talked to Kelsey yesterday about Raheen, who apparently is just super hungry for feedback, super hard worker, and it shows because they have gone from what I would say like bottom to mid-tier AD carry to an incredibly reliable and fantastic AD carry here on the side of Zeus Gaming.
And that's, I think, in microcosm, what has happened to Zeus as an entire team. All of their lanes have come online as threats. And for a team that already had carries towards their top side in Alorum, for a team that already had great macro, that was what they needed. It was, okay, well, if Darkwing shows up, if our bottom lane is a threat as well, there is no way to shut Zeus out of the game reliably during the laning phase, and then they get to the phase where their macro is most impactful. And that's been the secret to Zeus' trip so far. Solafide, of course, on the opposite side, started out this season dominating. You will recognize those names. And they ran up against a wall in the mid-season as teams started to keep up with them, started to be able to play at their level. And I'm delighted to announce that Solafide, a veteran roster, have been struggling and evolving over the course of the season just to keep pace with amateur League of Legends.
Because that's the point. That's what they're here to do. That's what the entire league is here to do, is to cause development not only for the players, but for these teams as a whole.
I'm getting notes here. That is apparently not what some of these teams were able to do, as they were dropped down already. Goodbye, Academy teams. You're in the lower bracket. Let's talk about the draft. It is time for us to get into the first phase. Solafide are first picking here in the mid lane, grabbing Tuesday, his Oriana, a character that Tuesday is pretty well known for. A very, very, very strong team fight threat. Tuesday's current KDA, do you remember the exact number? It was like 14 or something.
I think it was 15.
The point is, it's like ridiculous.
15.6 or something. Yeah, nutty.
And he gets that from sitting behind team fights, just throwing in spells. He's really good at positioning. He's really good at control mages. This Orianna is a real easy lock-in.
I'm looking at the side of Zeus Gaming, and every single draft, RBM does this. Every single one, it's the Kha'Zix hover. And I'm just hoping, one day, RBM, you've got to lock it. I don't care what your team says. I don't care what you say. You hover a champion I love that long, you've got to press that lock-in button eventually.
RBM, do it for Matt. Look into his eyes below his gleaming bald head. And say, I'll pick Kha'Zix.
Thanks, RBM.
Draft phase for them does end with a Syndra and a Hecarim. So you do that jungle threat from RBM. He likes to play quick, early gankers. Lee Sin is one of the champions he became famous for over the course of this tournament. And instead, he will be on the Hecarim. Similar early game potential though. We also have a control mage for Darkwings. Kelsey was saying it on the desk, but Tuesday versus Darkwings is absolutely a lane to watch here, as Darkwings has kept pace with Tuesday over the course of the tournament, but does get pulled out slightly more.
Yeah, and it is shown in the kill count. They both have the exact same kill count across the season. They're incredibly strong mid laners, but Darkwings tends to get himself in trouble a little bit more, I would say. Diving in very deep, especially on this Azir sometimes, just looking for plays, looking for setups. While we were talking, though, Solafide locked in that Senna for Apollo, and I want to talk about that a little bit because I'm not super big on this pick for Apollo. He's fine on it. The team around him, less fine.
Exactly. And even when it works out, it does feel like Solafide are worse for not having Apollo as a big carry presence during the early and mid game. This is something that has been part of the Solafide story. They don't have consistent team fights when Apollo is not standing up. And that isn't to say that they don't have consistent carries, because I would actually argue that Donkla and Tuesday have been more essential to many of their games. But not having Apollo there for the team fights visibly hurts them. Visibly hurts the front-to-back way they want to fight. And so this will be yet another trial run for the Senna. Solafide, of course, undefeated, as are Zeus Gaming thus far in the bracket, so hasn't gone too badly. One other note, Tristana did come through there for Zeus, but I want to talk about this Lilia for Tuesday. Or for Winston, sorry. This is a little bit outside of Winston's normal pool. He does play Lilia, but he's much more comfortable on the champions that have been banned so far, the Olaf and the Udyr. Will also pull out a very good Graves, but that's a slice out of meta compared to Lilia. So I'm interested to see if Winston can maintain the consistency that has been his own arc this season, becoming a more consistent presence for the team, a very safe and steady rock in the jungle on a champion like Lilian.
I'm excited about that last pickup, though, by Zeus Gaming, though. We get a Galio. I'm guessing it's going on to Rhino, and that is a really good thing, because Zeus Gaming excel when Rhino has that engaged support.
God, they have to be so happy they took away the Orianna. Imagine this team comp with an Orianna. Okay, so Tristan bot lane, presumably with the Galio, you could also see something weird in Alorum's hands. Alorum, though, is very likely being saved this counter pick. So this will probably be carrying over on the top side that is drafted here. The Galio works well into the composition they have drafted so far, because you have both the Tristana and the Hecarim that can go for a little bit more risky engage here, and the Galio can follow through with that heroic entrance, especially Pocket Rhino's Galio. Pocket Rhino is an incredibly aggressive support. He will make it work. Here's the problem, though. What is Alorum counterpicking? You have both a Gnar and a Scion.
That is a brilliant question, TJ. Looks like just kind of splitting the difference there and going for the Wukong. Have some engage into the Gnar if you need it, and we'll at least have some utility if you can't win the lane. Oh my god, TJ, we finally get to see it. It's the Senna Scion lane. Let's go.
This was pulled out. I'm not going to say the team name. I'm going to get it wrong. I think it was G2, but I could be wrong there. Flame me, LEC fans. This was pulled out in the LEC. You can do a whole lot of cool stuff by applying the root to the minion that you forward. And so I'm really excited to see whether or not it'll work as a lane, and whether or not Solafide can pull off the duo combos. Because that's the entire point. If you win the lane without doing the sick root combos, I don't know, maybe forfeit. That's my take.
Whew. That's a real hot take, TJ, but we're going to need him. We're going to need him in the tank for this series.
Exactly.
I am...
Matt, we have like 20 more seconds on camera. Show him your stamp. No!
I don't get to! It's gone! Tone took it away from us.
There's your draft! Matt has a stamp with the tournament logo that he 3D printed, and I wanted everyone to see it.
It's the grand
Okay.
prize. I'm saying it now.
He's giving it to the winner. He's just committed to that. Here are your two drafts. Overall, that Scion changes my opinion about the bottom lane a little bit. I do think that there is potential for that to be more aggressive than a Senna lane usually is, because they can trade behind the Scion and behind those roots, which will be a better engage tool than they usually have. However, Tristana into Senna is pretty rough for that Senna. And I feel overall very good about the Zeus Gaming draft.
Yeah, their bottom lane is really aggressive, really able to, if they're able to find either Zeyzal or Apollo and lock them down, there is so much damage going to come out of this Tristana. I mean, especially if you find Apollo. That's just a dead Senna, most likely. And that is what Zeus Gaming are going to be trying to capitalize in the bottom lane. But overall, you're looking for team fights coming out from here. You've got Alorum in the top lane with the Cyclone, RBM to set up the engages, and coming out of the back of that, Hero's entrance from Pocket Rhino. And together, it makes a maelstrom of AoE from which Raheen and Darkwings can just pound away with DPS.
So, if you're a Solafide fan, where are the Solafide advantages? I would say in the individual matchups. We've talked about it. Tuesday is the most terrifying player in this tournament right now, and he is playing into Darkwings, who is the only mid laner currently coming close. So, that's a matchup to watch. And then you also need to pay attention to Dokla versus Alorum. These are two veterans that have both been playing League of Legends at an incredibly high level for a very long time, and both have kind of defined the identity of their teams. Dokla more so in the second half of the season. First half was a little bit coin flippy. It felt like maybe he wasn't comfortable on the team. They weren't being able to play to him. He was being left completely dry on weak side. Solafide were dedicating all their resources towards Apollo. And then as we have progressed throughout the season, Tuesday has stepped up. Winston has become more stable, and Dokla, because of or as part of the reason for that, has become a hard carry when this team needs him to. If he is able to knock Alorum out of lane, that is a massive victory for Solafide, and vice versa for Alorum over on Zeus Gaming.
It's a really tough matchup because we've seen Alorum stomp these lanes time and time again, but the one time we see Alorum pushed out of lane, we saw that earlier on in their last series. Game number 2, Alorum was 1-6 by 18 minutes. Zeus Gaming fell apart. They need their top laner in these games, calling these fights, calling these objectives. As one of, if not the most experienced players on the team, he is going to be their shot caller.
Alorum is quite possibly one of the most experienced players in the tournament. Don't run the math on that. I'm just speaking on a gut. I don't know. It's going to be close. They may very well be in this game. Yeah, no, it is absolutely the veterans up there on the top side. And then you have what would normally be the full focus for Solafide, what normally they have played through the start of the season. Their team identity early on was feed Apollo, win game. And that has kind of faltered come mid-season. It has been much more about Tuesday. It has been much more about the team fights that they can take as an entire unit. And the difference and growth for that has been overall good for the team. And it mirrors what's happened over on Zeus, where they initially left Raheen weak side, played to Alorum, and as the season has gone on, they have felt more comfortable saying, okay, Alorum, you don't need to dominate lane. You can play a little bit slower, because Raheen will be a secondary carry for this team. Now, they're going to get to match up as well. In summary, Matt, there's no bad lane. Every lane is sick.
Bangers around us 24/7, TJ. How do we pick one to pay attention to? We don't. We let the game speak for us. We'll figure it out when we get there.
I was going to say D6, something like that, but okay.
Yeah, sure, we could roll for it, but I'd rather just let the game take us where it takes us and we figure it out from there. It's a lot more fun.
What stat would that be?
Oh man. I don't know enough D&D for this. Wisdom.
Yeah, roll. Okay, wisdom check. I'm with you. I was going to go persuasion because that's all casting really is, but
yeah, that's high level tech though. We can't let everyone know that.
Just knowing which matchup is the most important is probably wisdom.
Yeah.
Welcome to game number 1 here of our upper bracket finals. See how I didn't use the word grand that time, Matt?
Nice.
And you have unmuted your mic.
I sure have. You know, TJ, though, I think since this can't be the grand finals, we need to replace it with another suitably impressive adjective.
Magnificent.
Magnificent finals. That's what it is. Welcome to the upper bracket magnificent finals between Solafide and Zeus Gaming as we are here in game number 1.
You've heard of grand finals. Get ready for magnificent fight. I don't know. I lost the tempo, Matt. I don't think it's...
The lower bracket one is just swell finals.
Okay.
They're all right.
So it's like a right, okay, all right.
Better than regular
You know,
finals,
we may need to take the system and get it approved before we ship it.
But
I think we're on to something.
So's Alorum,
Dunkler.
Jesus.
Yeah. Burned down in the early moments here by Alorum. Just at the ranged matchups, he's going to be able to trade back over. But Alorum goes back in, forces a flash out of Dokla, and is completely zoned him off of this lane.
All right, I'm going to be honest, TJ. That's not how I expected this lane to be going. Like, I knew Alorum could engage there on the Wukong. That was not my illusion. But I was thinking Dokla would be able to zone away with the autos, range advantage, means CS advantage. But Alorum's good,
level
man.
1 doesn't have the mobility, and Alorum recognizes that and just says, I can run you down. He's going to have to burn TP as well. How much CS does he have? 4! Matt, this is brutal!
Yeah, Alorum's doing great, and this is going to mitigate a little bit of that laning difficulty you'll have later on once the Gnar does have that hyper skilled up. Once you have the boomerang toss and the hop, you have all those mobility tools to stay out of the way of Alorum. But capitalizing on that level 1, Alorum has now gotten a slight advantage, going to go back to base and either walk or TP back, but has the time for it. Oh, never mind.
Starting magnificently for Alorum, but I think you'll struggle to maintain control of this lane, because guess who's coming up, Matt?
It's Winston. I'm guessing. I mean, I can also see it, but... okay. Here comes the problem.
In trouble, Alorum will be able to flash away Dokla, despite burning the Mega Gnar, does not find anything. Very good timing. Flash was burned, but Alorum will take that to survive an early gank.
I really enjoyed RBM's movement there, because he was just running a defensive perimeter around Alorum as they retreated, just running back and forth and back and forth. No Swirl Seed gonna get through here, sir. Oh my god.
Mr. Dokla, I'm gonna have to ask you to step back.
RBM, a bouncer in a past life, it seems.
Maybe the current life, you know what he does.
It's true.
It's not called the really big meme because he's a small man, Matt.
It's true. Massive. Meme of the most beautiful size.
Pressure here in lane is working out very well for Zeus across the board, as they have dominated the bottom lane to start things off as well. Zazel and Co just being shoved back behind turret. It's very hard to run a starvation wave into Tristana just because she pushes it so quickly. Kind of Ziggs mid vibes.
I really like the Tristana pick into the Senna lane, especially because as Tristana, it is so impossible to farm if anyone challenges your wave superiority. If someone tries to push it back into you and, God forbid, gets it under your tower, you just can't farm. It is so hard to control the wave as Tristana, but if you're just able to push it under the tower where Apollo's not going to be able to farm all that great, Zazel and Apollo aren't going to be able to get their combo going, and Zazel's being harassed under tower and is struggling to farm, this is really the dream matchup for Tristana, where she can scale into that later stage of the game where she's just going to be destroying people.
I will note, however, so far, Zazel has been doing a remarkably good job, despite the back that they had to do to survive that early pressure. Zazel has been managing to keep up in CS. In fact, as we speak, has a tiny CS lead. So, hats off.
Good juke from Darkwing. I
He's
was going to say,
enjoying-
TJ, Zazel's doing such a great job in the bottom lane. The cops are coming for him.
That was right outside my window. I was really wondering whether or not it would pick up on the microphone, so I wasn't going to say anything about it. But it was like 3 cop cars and a fire truck, so...
Oof. Something's gone wrong.
I'm going to
Sunny
say
San
arson.
Francisco.
Need
Good
to
guess.
arrest the guy and also put out the fire.
It's a good guess.
I-
Scared that you need
there are-
3 police cars for that, though.
Yeah, well, there are 3 arsonists,
Okay, there we
but
go.
only 1 fire.
We're getting somewhere. They work together. Teamwork. That's what we're about today.
Exactly. Zoos do have the pressure yet again here in the bottom lane as both their players have rejoined the fray. And it is just in time for our first Drake of the game, Matt. Winston, not interested in it, instead contesting all the way up here on the top side where Alorum is pinned behind the turret.
Yeah, this is Winston's like 3rd or 4th gank of the game total. They're going to try and go for the dive here. Dokla has 6. Alorum goes invisible. TP's here.
You
to
can't
save.
gank what you can't see, Matt.
The John Cena strategy. Infamous for never being ganked in the WWE.
I don't know enough about the WWE, so I'm sure that's true.
The joke is that it's not League of Legends, TJ. We'll get it.
Okay. He's in some really bad movies, that's all I know.
That's true. The only good thing from Winston so far that they've been able to find is that Raptor camp. Like, that's really the advantage they've been able to glean from these ganks. To be fair, RBM hasn't found a whole lot with their movement across the map either, but interesting to see the laners be doing such a great job at repelling these ganks, especially Darkwings and Alorum have been doing just fantastically on that front.
First strike of the game has been up for a while, and I want to address that because we did have that pressure up at the top side whilst RBM was down here. Zeus did not start the drake.
Swore I heard the sound effect of a Scion ulting. This is one of the good things about having Raheen on this Tristana, though, down in the bottom lane is when that Drake comes up, you can just full shove. You've got the power for it. Explosive Charge just does great work on the back lines. Got Rhino there to work on the front lines with you. But RBM nowhere to be found. I suspect they just don't value the Dragon at this point, don't know that they can 100% take the fight, and don't want to just throw the game right here.
Get out of here! Says Darkwings to a minion. That was one of our lanes to watch, so as your update, how's that mid lane going? Dead even!
It's
No
just
early
fine.
advantages found.
Hey, that's not true, TJ. There's 40 more stacks on Darkwings' tier.
I apologize.
Okay,
This
just
is
20.
me.
Never mind.
TJ apologizing.
Good. It's about time. Rhino going to be able to pick that one up, but still no Drake. Here comes RBM for the save.
You're not allowed to get into this club, says RBM. Allura will
Oh!
still be shut down. It's across the map that Apollo finds the kill, lining up his ultimate perfectly. The bouncer is unsuccessful, man.
Beautiful Dawning Shadow there from Apollo. I got goosebumps. RPM going to be going in for the engage with the Shockwave
Ooh.
from Tuesday. You don't have any mana, Tuesday. You got to get out of there. Darkwings coming in. RBM low gets
Finds it.
taken down. Darkwings cannot find a stun, and Tuesday red buff in hand.
Step.
He's going to walk
Tuesday-
right out of there.
Tuesday walking around the scatter of the week. My God. Tuesday's confidence and macro there, stepping into the jungle to cut off RBM, knowing where he is, guaranteeing he can shut it down, yes, even with the tiny amount of mana he had, and then being able to get away as well from Darkwings. 2 flashes burned, both mid laners spend theirs. Tuesday manages to sidestep Darkwings' ulti, and who cares?
This
Easy
is
games,
looking-
man.
Yeah, this is looking really great here for Solafide off the little bit of uneventful starts they've been getting with those ganks. Winston finally finds something up there towards that red buff. And now, off the back of that, Solafide have started establishing a little bit of a lead. It's a baby lead right now, but with time, nurture, and care, they can grow it further. Zeus will answer with the Mountain Drake, though, off the back of that. So it will be a Mountain Drake for Herald Trade.
If you are wondering about Tuesday and his KDA. I have just checked. He has only died 6 times during this tournament. His average KDA is 14.5 with 34 kills and 53 assists alongside those 6 deaths.
Real impressive. We're seeing why, though. Like, Tuesday
Yep.
estimated that trade. I thought he was dead the whole time.
The other stat that I need to call out there is 82% kill participation.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is what we just saw in the jungle as Tuesday steps forward, recognizes where there's an opening on the map, and has exactly enough resources to exploit it and get away with his life.
That's the Tuesday special. You're not going for flashy plays. You're not necessarily going for the fastest fingered plays, but you are winning and saving games consistently.
Speaking of saving games, we're going to hit Control S on that one. See if we can open the file in a couple of seconds. I don't know entirely what's gone wrong. But you are back at the desk. Show us the stamp!
Yeah! I made the logo into a 3D model. And hold on. Can we get it on the camera? There we go. It's starting to focus a little bit. So we got a little cup here. It's got texture on the sides. Look at that. Different
That just
Y
looks
values.
like a side. I don't know.
Yeah, but they got
Cool,
like...
though.
Look, I spent like 3 hours on this thing just practicing. Because there was a weird issue that came up where it just like wasn't filling in the lines, and I never had any proper training in CAD, so...
Can you cut it out so it is just a trophy? Could you make a three-dimensional version?
100%, but it would take a while. Maybe that's what we can use with the break. Maybe I'll just open up Fusion 360, pop it on the stream.
We have a 1 minute break after this game. Is that enough time?
Oh, I meant the game break, but we don't have enough time for that either. We're coming back in.
No. We've resolved whenever it did go wrong, and we will be headed back into game. As things are looking real good at the start of this game, I am genuinely impressed by Solafide's early game, but I think it is good to temper your expectations if you are a Solafide fan, because you have to remember Zeus's biggest strength, their most massive advantage, is their ability to play well in the macro, in the mid-game.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to here as we see Alorum Scale get out of this lane. He gets knocked down and stunned. Should be able to find his way out.
Alorum will get away.
Not for long.
Doesn't have any more clones, though. He'll be shut down. There was a railgun across the map as well. Here comes Winston dropping in the Rift Herald as well. Real scary time. So, mid lane, they're going to try and get something back. It's Tuesday in trouble. It's Tuesday gone.
7 deaths total across the entire tournament now for Tuesday. That was a really good trade there for Solafide. I'm really vibing with their strategy right now because we've seen before that if you get Alorum behind, the shot calling for the team tends to fall behind with him. So trying to shut that down, trying to shut down what is essentially the primary or secondary engage of the team, depending on how they want to play it, is really powerful here for Solafide, and especially getting Dokla ahead.
And what a lead he now has, being able to shove through the top side and get even further forward. I'm back looking at me. That's the thoughts I had. Shelly Duval there shoving all the way through to turret number 1. That was first turret of the game, so extra gold in their pockets. Then getting a fair amount of damage on the T2 there in the top lane, which is pretty darn big for Dokla. It's going to make it very hard for Alorum to get anything done on the top side.
Uh-oh. We are having some technical issues, so not sure how long we're going to be here, but game feed has suddenly disappeared into the void.
Oh no. Yeah, that does... We are being promised that we'll be back soon, but it doesn't sound great. Our production team is very impressive, so shout-outs to producer Tone, who is working very quickly to get us back into it. Matt,
Yes.
do you think you can make the trophy in this much time?
No, there's no way. So the easiest way to make something that's circular, right, is you take a 2D sketch. So if I just took this, cut it down 1/2, and there's a tool called Revolve. So if I just had this sketch, cut it exactly in half, I could take the Revolve tool, spin it around the axis, done. The problem is the UGP logo, you can look at it over there in the upper left. You'll notice there's kind of lines between the parts. Actually, In that one, they're hard to see. But in the official
I was going to say, I'm
PNG
not
I was
noticing
given,
anything.
in the official PNG I was given by our very lovely TO, there's gaps in between the parts. So if you tried to do that, you'd end up with a bunch of floating parts, and I don't think that's not what you want to make a trophy about. You don't want to build your own trophy.
I do. Sign me up.
Actually,
No,
yeah, that'd
Matt,
be
so
fun.
I have an alternative idea. I've been learning about this today. I fell down a rabbit hole this morning. It's something called NFT, or non-fungible, I think is what the F stands for, tokens. And it's a Bitcoin thing.
Okay.
So already, like, tune out, that allows you to basically certificate anything on the internet, be it a tweet or a PNG or a specific web page. The NBA is selling official player cards with these as the original, the exclusive version of this PNG, this player card, whatever.
Uh-huh.
And people are like buying and selling them for hundreds of thousands of dollars as of this weekend. It's the hot new thing.
You had to do it
So-
with my art.
Hear me out.
Okay.
Instead of a trophy, what if we gave somebody a .png that was linked to the blockchain so you knew it was the only one in existence?
Hold on, because I now feel obligated to go find the original trophy thing and try and pull it up, because I do have this capability. I have.
So you do have the original PNG. Matt, we are in business. They are selling them at legit auction houses. We could make a killing here. We need to take this off mic.
We can't allow this to go free. Pretend nothing ever happened.
You did not see anything.
We've got to play some copyrighted music so it gets struck down anyways. We'll see.
Oh, that
Hold
would
on.
be
I've got
real
it.
easy.
There we go.
Oh my god, the tech.
This
Yeah,
is the
so
original.
that's it.
So when you export it, because what you need to do in order to get this into a CAD program is you need to export it. It's a PNG right now. You need an SVG format. So you take it into Inkscape, which is a free image editor, because I'm cheap. And you have
Shout out
to
to
have it
Inkscape.
automatically retrace it. So what happens there is it separates them all into individual pieces and puts gaps in there, because you can see it's alternating gray and white. It's a very nice graphic design, but Inkscape hates it. Inkscape really hates it. So it becomes, because I have both of them here, I actually don't think I can have an SVG as a source, but it becomes this like
can
pink
you
and black
screen
mess.
share the SVG? Can you just screen cap it?
Oh yeah. But I've got a screen share because
Solve
you
the
know
problems.
what? My SVG is open in Microsoft Edge.
What?
I know. It's powerful tech, TJ.
They're too sharp for Firefox. They're gonna come out on the edge, Matt.
Type it in a new source right now called Edge. MS Edge, there it is. So you can see there, it separates into like these 17 different parts.
It's
You can
like
see.
Cyberpunk now.
Yeah,
Can you put a
but you can
text on it
see-
that says it's going to be delayed for the foreseeable future?
I can do that. I can do that with my webcam, actually. But look, do you see those
that
gaps
would
there?
be really cyberpunk.
That's the problem. You know what? That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come back to the webcam. We're going to add some text here. This is the real text.
What is it? Black, yellow background? Is that the...
Oh, yeah. I can't,
We're
I
sorry,
can't
we
do
forgot to add the...
the fancy
Anyway.
colorway.
So, update for those waiting on the game. The game has been paused by a player. It is Raheen who is paused. I hope I was allowed to say that. He's having issues with his router, and he's going to be resetting. So, we will see what happens.
What do you think the most official font is?
Papyrus.
That's a really good choice. I actually think it's not copyrighted.
Now,
to the point
hear
where I
me
can't
out.
Use it.
Hear me out.
Okay.
You might be like, Papyrus is a goofy font. What do you mean it's the most official font? It is the only font in your Windows font library that has been used as the poster and logo font for the highest grossing film franchise of all time. That's right, it's the Avatar logo. James Cameron presents Papyrus.
All right. I think we've got the tech, TJ.
Okay.
There we go. Now, if our lovely graphic artists and our graphic manager Hyper could tell me how high quality this is, I'd love their opinions, because I think, artistically speaking, this is the peak.
Yeah, I don't think we can get much better than that here at the Proving Grounds. Yeah, wow. You know, I'm just reminded of that time in James Cameron's Avatar that the main character, Jake Sully... Nope, it's gone. I don't remember anything more about that movie.
Something about dancing with wolves, something. Plagiarism, something.
Ponytails? That was important.
There was that big tree that looked really cool.
Yeah. So the NFTs, the like Bitcoin token things, are blowing up. And my favorite part about this is that, and you know, this is true with all new Bitcoin blockchain stuff, is people like don't really know how much it's worth, and they spend a stupid amount of money in the first couple of days of it being released. Like William Shatner auctioned off a photo of his dental scans from when he was on Star Trek, and someone paid like $4 bazillion for it. It was like hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I would like to. It is not a photo. It is a PNG that other people could have images of, but they have paid for the right to know that they have the original.
I hate the internet!
Version of William Shatner and his dental scans.
Who wouldn't want
and then
those?
The NBA has like a cool thing where it's like player cards, but they're like video clips of highlight moments. And I like that. That's genuinely
I think that'd
cool.
be kind of cool. I think if you can get that into a physical medium as well. We're not there yet, but if you can have a little screen in the card.
Which says Papyrus. Cool play, NBA. Well, I think, as with all these things, there's a cool use for that, right? This technology is going to be cool. Being able to define one-of-a-kind things is obviously a good thing, and there's some cool stuff where, like, artists who sell their art this way can mark their art so they always get a percentage of the sale. So that's, like, good. You want to protect the artists if their art becomes way more valuable later on in their career.
Right.
Bet Vincent van Gogh wishes he knew about the blockchain.
I don't think he does. I think he would have been much more depressed had he known about the blockchain. Important update we do have from the production team. Raheen is reconnected to the blockchain. We should be in game very shortly.
Raheen is coming back. Invest in Raheen.
The original.
Yeah. Certified. So, we will hopefully be back into game in just a moment. If you just tuned in and you've been learning about the blockchain and 3D printing. We are not experts on either of those things, so I apologize. But we are vamping for time, as it is known in the business, because there has been a player disconnect. But this early game has started real strong, so as we get back into it, we need to start talking about Solafide yet again.
I'm really excited to see where they're going to go from here. This is where we need to see Solafide step it up. If they're not able to transition this lead into more objectives, more wins across the map, Zeus Gaming will find their way back in it. And that what we saw just there, the red buff, that's exactly what we're looking for.
Very, very good little opportunity successfully found. Like you say, it is the kind of thing we're looking for. But early game still, 2,000 ahead. Things look good for Solafide. We'll see whether or not they can find anything more out of this laning phase. Something to mark here is that Alorum should have the exclusive non-fundable right to this top lane now. Dokla has shattered a turret, and thus will find it hard to farm.
Well, not if Dokla freezes successfully, which is what it looked like is going on up here.
Yep. Alorum had to go forward and break it. Ooh. Ults forward. That doesn't work out so well for a Matt. Alorum, a sliver of HP, does have backup near there. That's Rhino and RBM that are up there. And this, of course, means that Raheen is all alone down there on the bottom side of the map.
So what they want to be doing here, they're obviously setting up for a dive, but also you just want to reset that wave, try and get it pushing back so Alorum can farm. Instead, Alorum's just getting engaged on there by Dokla. Dodges away the Dawning Shadow and the Gnar.
That's so intimidating!
Here comes
Dunkla.
RBM.
He's going to run out of Megadar soon. A 1v3 once it happens, and he should go down pretty easily. He will. Bot lane in the meantime, this will be traded for a turret. Raheem did get away safely.
Felt like an early Godzilla movie where you just see him stomping around the map. Hey, what happened there?
Tuesday just slipped in and found a kill somehow. Tuesday just slides in and shuts down RPM. Completely undoes what could have been pitched as a viable trade. I wouldn't have believed you. I think turret for player is something that Solafide take any day of the week, but you could have made the pitch at least. Now it's just a free turret and a 1-for-1 trade. Zeus still getting manhandled, now a 4,000 gold lead as we head into the 17th minute.
And a lot of this comes back from the top lane. You know, we're looking at Winston early on in the game was focusing very heavily up there. That allowed Dokla to get back into the game. Sure wasn't finding any kills, but then was able to transition that into more off the back of Tuesday.
And I think we do have a look at that kill that Tuesday found. This is all the way up here first. Alorum, this was a while ago. By which I mean like 15 minutes ago, because we had a pause. But that was Alorum going down for the first time, which resulted in the Rift Heralds going in, and Tuesday just ran in here and found the kill the first time round. Now you might be like, and he did this again? Yeah, hopefully we'll get a look at that as well. Check out his sidestep here. Boom! Just around the side.
That is out 4 different stuns.
Yeah.
Really nice.
We don't have time for a second replay because we do have a Rift Herald instead. Solafide would like to manifest their lead onto the map. Positive thinking, Matt, but also the Rift Herald.
Positive.
It's a combination of giant crabs and positive manifestation.
That's a combination I really don't want to know about, TJ. Something I don't ever wish for in my personal life. But
do you have a moment to hear about my blockchain?
I really don't, TJ. There's a Rift Herald push in the mid lane. There's a giant crab. We got to talk about that one instead.
Solafide will take 2 turrets here and keep shoving. Stun will be found. Rhino forced to burn the flash to get over the wall. We'll get to safety, but that safety is threatened as the tier 1 turret, the inhibitor turret itself, is focused down.
So let's take stock again of what has gone on this game. Because coming into this one in the draft, we were saying we weren't too high on Apollo on Senna, not because he's not a capable Senna player, but because the team tends to struggle around him. We haven't seen that lack of the Apollo factor this game. I mean, for one, Apollo has just been firing away the Dawning Shadows like crazy. But beyond that, the play has really materialized around Winston. Winston has been going top, been going mid. Tuesday, of course, has been roaming around as well. Can't lose the credit there. But this has been a well-oiled machine here from Solafide, and they are being paid dividends. 4K gold up.
I've figured it out as well. Whoever loses this matchup, of course, goes down to the lower bracket, has to play in the game tomorrow. What day is it going to be tomorrow?
Tuesday.
He doesn't want to play on his day, Matt.
He wants his
day off. You don't want to have to work on the day you're named after. Tuesday is for Tuesday. So he's got to win today. And he's demonstrating that with a really good roam presence early. Like, his map control is kind of terrifying.
It's really funny for me because when you think of strong roaming champions, you think Talia, Aurelion Sol, Twisted Fate. My last thought is Orianna. That is not like the #1 roaming champion in the game by far.
Gives himself the speed boost. Just goes. And that's the Orianna story so far. Tuesday is moving across the map just a little bit too fast.
It's really funny seeing them catch up to a frickin' Hackerum of all champions.
I mean, not so much catch up as cut off at the pass. The Hackerums.
Just have a net.
It's how hits happen. It's how hits happen in mob movies where the Hackerum's driving through an intersection and a car just slams into the side. That's what Tuesday's doing.
But it's a weird clockwork robot girl. That's Tuesday.
That's what the mob has to keep up with the times, Matt. Robert De Niro's driving that robot girl.
A truly transformative role. Won the Oscar for Best Lead Actor.
After the CGI de-aging, there's only one place left to go. That's right, Robert De Niro's VTuber career.
I was waiting for it. I was like, if he doesn't make the VTuber joke, I'm going to. Thank you, TJ. You brought it home for me. Oh, God. This is,
He'd make a killing.
He would. Solafide now are just going to be pushing down into the bottom side. They're going to be stalling as much as possible, and they have really found so much here at the 20-minute mark. They've got every tower down to those tier 2s. And they're continuing to be unchallenged. As you see that massive gold lead they've accrued.
That's my blockchain.
It only goes up, TJ.
So it's all it does. We do have a Drake coming up in a moment as well. 17 seconds on that. Baron on the map as well. If I'm Solafide, the Drake is pretty free, and then you see where you're at. You see what Zeus are stepping up to fight. If they're cowering, you turn for the Baron. Solafide on the opposite side do have vision of this Drake take. There's a control ward in that bush. So we'll see if they do anything interesting with that. They are headed towards the top side of the map, towards the Baron. I can't imagine they'll be able to properly contest it though, so to be frank, I don't really know what this is about.
No, really loving the fact that the game state has gotten such that Zeyzal is solo farming top.
Yeah.
They just don't need a support anymore. What's the
Playing
point?
Sion. You know how things are. Farming in the top lane, that's what you do with Sion, Matt. I don't understand what the complication is.
You know what? That's a good point, TJ. With Gnar, you just support the AD carry.
That's all I make is good points. TP, cross the map. This is going to be Zeyzal. Aforementioned support, cutting off Dark Wings.
Oh my god. So fast.
What do you do?
Nothing. You just try and dodge out as long as you can. There goes the knockup.
Oh my
Darkwing's
god!
low. Doesn't find Tuesday, who has the Zonias ready, forces the flash out of Dark Wings.
He gets out!
Who gets out?
Dark Wings, you maniac! Just walks right up to Zeyzal. Says, you're my new best friend. Zeyzal can't quite, his axe is too long to be effective at that range, which is truly entertaining. Manages to burn down Tuesday, burn down Zeyzal, or sorry, Winston. Force him to stay at arm's length. And then just slip away through the gap with a very well-timed flash and phase rush. Really cool things out from Dark Wings.
Yeah, Darkwing's just been one of those players that has come in clutch time and time again for the side of Zeus Gaming, but this game has tried to do so, but only 1-0-0. The rest of the map is falling behind and doesn't have quite that much presence. I will say, eventually this Tristana has to do something. Problem is, Zeus just have not found a full team fight. Every single fight thus far has been these little tiny skirmishes, and let me tell you, Tuesday wins those. But
Correct.
if you get Zeus into a fight where Raheen can pump out some damage, you can get some engage coming in from RBM and Alorum, maybe they have a chance, but they are biding their time until that moment comes.
Especially when you see Tuesday's macro be as effective as it is this game. Like, Tuesday is beating out Dark Wings on kill participation and map presence. There has never been a skirmish this game that Tuesday has not been a part of, aside from the solo ganks onto the top lane.
That 82% kill participation coming in big, TJ.
Other things to talk about, as this game does get a little long in the tooth for Zeus. I don't imagine they've got a path back into this, but if they do, you're probably looking at the Tristana-Syndra combo, making something happen behind a Hecarim-Galio entrance. You can set that up, you can burst people low, get access to the backlines, and then try and kite Zeyzal and the front line.
And I think it's important to highlight that Solafide are doing a fantastic job at negating that potential win condition for Zeus. I've been saying, you know, that Tristana's looking for a fight, they're looking for a 5v5, maybe the Tristana can pop off a few kills, get the resets, keep going.
All right, check this out, Matt. Throat lozenge. Open.
Nice.
Oh, there's a second wrapping on the inside.
Why?
Don't know.
They
Dangerous
have
stuff.
a fortune on it?
And it's going in my mouth. It's not. It's just like wax paper. I don't know. It's not big enough to actually contain the throat lozenge. It was just like around
It's
the
just
throat
so it wasn't
lozenge.
indecent, TJ.
You're right.
Just being respectful of you.
My throat lozenges have the freshest fits. I was trying to see if there was a flavor here, but it just says original herb. So,
Thanks, Lozenge Company.
undisclosed lozenge company. Other brands available.
That's my new indie band name.
I like it. We're back here. I don't know what has happened. And that's good because we're right back into the game.
We don't need to know, TJ. We're right back. As I was saying, though, I do want to point out that I think Dokla and Zeyzal have been the main leaders of this. The wave control in the side lanes has been such that Zeus can never find, A, a place for them to really farm, B, a place for them to fight because they're being forced to respond to those lanes, they're being forced to respond to those waves the entire game.
Matt, I am so sorry. Unfortunately, we are viewing this game through a series of Twitch clips. They can only go 60 seconds at max. So we're going to have to wait a moment to get that next bit of the game clipped and then shipped onto our production server, and then we can air it.
You know, I really do appreciate the efficiency of the pipeline, though, from the production team. I've done social media before for the LPL, clipping those clips, getting them downloaded, uploading them to Twitter. Takes a while. I'm impressed how smoothly they've been able to do it to this point. I just think the Clipper servers, I think, just finally got overloaded. So they'll figure that back out. Just how they get the replays. They just pull up the relevant clip. It's really efficient. It's really efficient once you get into the replays, but until then, it's rough.
Until then, it's rough. But let me tell you, once we start looking back over this game, Jack, you would not believe we are going to be so set.
Unless there's a play that takes over a minute, then it kind of gets scary again.
In which case, we are not set. We are as unset as the table at dinner time, Matt.
Rhino's in a little bit of trouble. Zeyzal looking for the engage, but Rhino somehow flashes over the wall to safety. Raheen's just here.
What up, Raheen? Rhino will get away. Winston shows up, and Raheen actually burns down his initial target. Deep dive through to follow up, but Raheen is already gone. Winston survives on a sliver of HP. RBM cannot bail their AD carry out.
So that was like kind of what they were looking for, right? That's what Zeus have been looking for all game, but Raheen got a little big for the bridges. Alorum, in a similar situation, gets knocked down there by Dokla.
Yeah, Dokla getting real good at landing those AoEs on both clones. Doesn't matter which one's the real one if you just kill them both.
I did notice earlier on, I didn't even think about this at the time. I was focusing on the 6 Scion pick, but Gnar into Wukong really sucked for Alorum because if you have at least one stack of Hyper on that Wukong and he decoys, you can tell which one it is.
Oh, good point.
Not that it's like super helpful most of the time.
On the floor.
Yeah.
Most of the time you know which clone it is. Just
yeah, it's the one that you haven't been auto-attacking for the last 30 seconds. But in any case where you'd be a little confused, you got those little markers.
You know what that is, Matt? That's tech. Baron was picked up. Solafide did get it. Zeus do finally get a bit of revenge, grabbing the Drake on the opposite side of the map. I would caution against celebrating that too much, but it does extend the soul win conditions. No. If they can survive the next couple of minutes, it'll be fine. I told you we would nail these replays. Twitch clip broadcasting coming in huge.
This is where I thought RBM had saved the fight, really, because Raheen was in a rough position. You find that Onslaught of Shadows into the backline, but it doesn't get the carries that you need to fear. And then Raheen is just stuck with no jump into the backline. Then Alorum just caught out of position here, looking for something on the side, but Dokla punishes it pretty easily, takes down the top laner Zeus. So this is really, that was the play that Zeus were trying to make to get back into the game. Shut down so easily by the side of Solafide.
So, this looks real good for Solafide to the extent that I'm starting to frame this as a conversation about the next game for Zeus. Maybe lessons learned from this is they were just blown out on the top side of the map and never felt like they had an opportunity to get back in. Tuesday in mid, leveraging the advantages earned by Dokla.
Dokla finds Darkwings on the backside. Alorum tries to go in, finds CC, but not the kill. There's the backup. RBM falls. Where's Raheen? Dead. That's your answer by the Nexus Towers. Alorum, last one standing, finally falls. Solafide find the ace and victory in game number 1.
Very, very impressive ending. Team fight Tuesday able to follow through behind Dokla for the initial burst of damage, and then, believe it or not, stay alive the entire time. Backing up, kiting up, using the shielding, drawing the fire, flashing over the wall, even teleporting back from the base to grab that end for game number 1 as Solafide blast their way up 1-0 in our upper bracket finals. As we start talking about this game too, Matt, I think the right frame of reference is what changes on the top side of the map. I think all eyes need to be on, yes, Alorum, but also all the elements that surrounded it. RBM was an almost non-factor that game compared to Winston's efficacy at creating opportunities. He's not especially flashy, but he's controlling the map, and that Rift Herald play that just tore open the entire game, that was Winston, baby. Then you start talking about the follow-up from Tuesday, the ability to spot those macro opportunities. Those are the things that need to change into game 2.
I think a lot of it was just RBM getting bullied, frankly, because that was the trend. Going forward in the early game, RBM wasn't able to find a whole lot, but then you look at the later stages of the game, where was Tuesday finding those roams? They were to punish RBM. There was no vision to catch Tuesday out on them. There was no one there to punish Tuesday for the attempt. Only after the fact, and Tuesday was easily able to dodge those one out, but there was nobody there anticipating the action, responding to the action before there was a dead jungler on the side of Zoo's game.
So it looks real good for Tuesday, it looks real good for Dokla and Winston, but overall, I would chalk that up to a macro victory, to a team difference in game number 1, and Zoos will have to bounce right back with the team play we know they have in their back pocket as we head towards a quick break and game number 2. You won't want to miss it. The UGP Upper Bracket Finals continue right after this.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. And that game 1, apart from occasional pauses, we were finally able to get through and eventually saw that Solafide had I don't want to say difficult time, but it wasn't necessarily easy. They had to work through the mid game to be able to close out that game 1, but the game was very, very in their favor for a majority of it, starting we have to kind of break it down from a little bit of the jungle pathing perspective once again, and I think Kelsey really wanted to get in more about the early game pathing from RBM. We don't have the clip quite ready yet, but it is. Oh, actually, never mind. We do have the replay coming in. So take us away, Kelsey, as we are focusing mainly on RBM's early game decision making here.
So he goes for the full clear, but as he's finishing the Crux camp on the top side, the top scuttle spawns, and because Lilia is able to be to the top first, he's no longer able to get the top scuttle, which means that he decides to walk all the way down to the bot scuttle here instead of looking for a recall timer, because his mid laner also, but even though his mid laner has prio. So when he does this, his Grom spawns, and he decides to full clear again, which kind of griefs the jungle tempo a little bit. In the end, he's able to, he ends up pathing all the way back up again, and when Alorum is in the top side, so we can definitely just speed through this part, but when Alorum is able to be in the top side and he's making the lane volatile, which is what you should do in this top lane matchup, you should just be constantly fighting so that Gnar can't get prio, and he's about to crash the wave. There is a window where RBM can think about, okay, we can walk into topside jungle and we can contest the Lilia, we can fight over the Grom, but instead he's just kind of not able to do that because he needs to get his reset in, which puts Alorum in a very awkward position as he's going to head straight back to the bot side.
And on the contrast here, Kelsey, because RBM doesn't get off to the right foot where he is able to accelerate himself in the game, Winston actually has a very, very, very impactful game as the Lilia, and we'll be able to see in a in a replay later on and the first blood of the game around the 8.5 minute mark. But this just kind of goes to show, because of that early Scuttle Crab control and being able to work with Dokala on that Gnar, Winston is able to move forward a lot and starts taking control of that top quadrant as the game progresses here for Solafide. Whereas, when we look on the other side of the map, Joey, we did see this Senna Scion pair come in for Solafide, and it did prevent Zeyzal being able to roam, since he's on the farming Scion duty. It kind of prevents you from going for those traditional roaming timers, but it's one of those things where you have to kind of tell me what goes in the mindset of support when you're making that change, going from a traditional roaming support on low econ to something like paired with the Senna, where your AD carry is probably the one having to make those support roams.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really big transition, because now your AD carry needs to be the one going around mid lane, getting the priority on his back windows. So you're really just trading roles with your AD carry. For the most part, as the Scion, you're kind of just really focused on getting a lot of farm and trying to become that big tank in the late game, and not really worrying about too much of like being able to go to mid or anything like that. It's more just about yourself, and you have to play a lot more selfishly as the Scion.
And then around the 8 minute, I think it's the 8:30 mark, we actually see that first blood come into fruition for Solafide. And I want to throw it to you, Alk, here, just to kind of lead us into how the repercussions of this first death for the side of Zeus Gaming kind of really snowballs the top side of the map here.
Yeah, I wanted to praise Solafide because after an early game where it felt a little bit dicey coming out from Zeus Gaming, where they were able to kind of destabilize the lane versus Dokala, I think that Winston and Dokala really started to sync up very well, and obviously using the Senna cross map was really fantastic. I think it just made this lane matchup that I think Zeus were expecting to go very well end up kind of just backfiring on them completely. And like we said earlier, it allowed for Winston to then take control of this top side, and it allowed for Tuesday to constantly find these picks onto RBM, roaming into the jungle after he pushes in a wave, is able to then get priority over Dark Wings and move in, secure vision, like we see here, just get out alive in a lot of these cases. I really loved how, even though Alorum forced Dokala to use both of his summoner spells pretty on, Winston was there to always answer, make sure that RBM and Alorum weren't just going off unchecked.
Yeah, and again, like a lot of the top discrepancy is just a result of what happened with the early game pathing from RBM. That reset in, so that's something that we definitely want to see them improve. In terms of what Solafide did really well, though, I definitely want to highlight the fact that it seemed like mid lane was really moving to support his jungle consistently. We constantly see Tuesday use his priority well to, okay, like this guy's on my camps, let's fuck him up, or sorry, am I allowed to use that word?
That was the one we're allowed to use. Thank you. You used it for us. That's what I like to see.
It's still PG-13, guys. Okay,
there we go.
Let's just mess him up. Let's take control of the jungle, and so you definitely see that top side just completely blow up very early on, get pushed all the way to the tier 2, and then just keep maintaining that control throughout the game.
I mean, if I'm RBM in that state, I might throw out an F-bomb or two as well. And like, hey, why is my mid laner not getting priority here in this matchup, But, for us watching Solafide, this is kind of a return to an older playstyle from Tuesday back on the CLG Academy roster, where he was tending to shove out his lane a lot harder in matchups where definitely he had the ability to, and then instead of just kind of playing back and playing for himself in safety, he was using his time to scout out vision and being able to get information and helping track RBM further for Winston, which allowed Winston to play even further up into that top quadrant of the jungle and opened up that opportunity for essentially the eventual stranglehold onto RBM for the rest of the mid game. And beyond the 15-minute mark here, Joey, it's very hard for the rest of Zeus Gaming to try and play catch-up when the scaling is in the favor of Solafide. We even saw a couple times that Pocket Rhino tried to come up as on this Galio, but his roams were only so successful in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, he had the right idea for a lot of it, and he kind of recognized it a little bit too late, in my opinion. He ended up losing his bot lane for the one time that he did roam. I would have liked to see him leave the lane a lot earlier. I thought the Tristana pick into the Senna was quite creative. It stopped her from being able to farm souls, and they had priority throughout the entire early laning phase, but they just didn't do anything with that priority. So if they get into this matchup again, I'd like to see the Galio backing on Fog, going through mid, and really just helping his mid lane and get priority to then invade Solafide's jungle and really try to help RBM get ahead in the early game this time.
It seems like Alec, you wanted to jump in on that point as well, or no?
All I gotta say is I think Darkwings was the bail man. He's like, hey, bot lane, do you need me to TP? Fine, here you go. Here's my 5-minute timer. Top lane's getting dived. Fine, here you go. I'll give you mine as well. I think Darkwings is playing really for his team, and I want to commend him for that. I think he did basically what he could with the kind of situation he was given, but it's pretty hard at that point. You're playing Senjor. We got to see him have a little bit of fancy feet and get away from basically what was a 4v1 for him. So really great job for him, and I'm impressed, but it's going to take more than just really nice right clicks to kind of beat out on Solafide.
It's all about the movement, man. One thing that we do want to commend Darkwings of, and not just apart from the 4-man escape that he managed to get out from, which I don't know how the hell he was able to manage that. But Darkwings was playing the lane as well as he could. Apart from the moment where Tuesday was able to get a couple shoves in and then immediately look to punish RBM on the back foot. But we know that Darkwings has been able to perform in the past, and being able to save an R5 counter pick for him has sometimes led into strong lane situations. Historically, I think one of the biggest things is where he picked the I think it was the Aatrox once Tuesday locked in Galio mid for himself, which was really creative. I'm not sure how many creative options you can go for once Tuesday is already gone with the Orianna, or if you're already opting into the Syndra before Solafide go with their mid laner of choice. But being able to save that for Darkwings, I think definitely opens up some avenues or creative possibilities. But also, as already said before, being able to get Darkwings on something that either is slightly stronger, or getting Pocket Rhino, not necessarily on a different support champion, but just getting him out of lane earlier so that he is able to make roams in support of RBM to get him access to the quadrants of the map that Winston is using his solo lanes to bully him out of. And as we are approaching about 50 seconds before we go back to game 2, I want to go to Kelsey and just kind of get some last minute thoughts about what you're looking at Zeus Gaming to prioritize, maybe in terms of draft going into game 2.
I honestly didn't have that big of an issue with their draft. I thought there was a lot of good creativity to it. I think they had a lot of good answers into range champs if they were on top of their resets. If it got to mid game, right? If they were on top of resets. If it got to mid game, then they'd be able to set up really good flank angles. They had priority lanes early in basically all 3 lanes, and they could have definitely just taken advantage and capitalized on that more. So I thought their draft was pretty solid, and I don't want them to kind of lose faith in the game plan, just fine-tune overall what they're going in and thinking about doing, making sure that Alarim is saying, I'm making top volatile, this guy trolls, like we can set up a dive on this timer, anything like that. Just make sure that you're identifying your win conditions as they occur and then actually playing to them in game. So
well, we'll have to see how that pans out then for Zeus Gaming. Draft, if that's not an issue, then just gotta clean up the execution
just
and
win.
be a little bit more proactive. It's just win forehead.
Just win.
Sometimes,
win.
sometimes that's all it takes. Going back to Mike Young's simple steps to success as a jungler. But hopefully, if RBM knows what he's talking about, then he can implement it in game 2. As TJ and Iberia are on standby for the cast to begin. Take it away, gentlemen.